The number one question is, how do you start from scratch? What if you don't have a mother to start with? When I made that video yesterday about my apple cider vinegar process, really I was just showing how I do it now. I wasn't even considering to give a full tutorial on how to do it made from scratch, but I should have considered. Many people will see this video and wonder, how do you start apple cider vinegar if you don't have the mother of vinegar to start with? Hi, Maggie. All right, I'm home. Let's get in the kitchen and get some work done. Back in the kitchen with the apple cider vinegar. This video is to go along with the one that I uploaded yesterday about the process of making my apple cider vinegar. First of all, this is my batch of apple cider vinegar that I started in that video that I posted yesterday. And just in case you weren't there for that, that white layer on top, that's the mother. That's the symbiotic culture of bacteria and yeast, SCOBY. That's the living organism on top of the vinegar that helps turn all of this apple sugars and water into the vinegar that we can use in our kitchens, homes, and our baths. The first question, how do you start without a mother? Well, this batch here was started without a mother, but I want to let you know the chances of you failing on your first attempt are maybe 50-50. My first batch of vinegar grew mold and I tossed it out. I started again, and ever since then, I've been doing all right. Go back and watch that video. A lot of the process that you see me doing, chopping, warming the apples, chopping the apples, putting it in, adding the sugar, doing the water, all of that is going to be the exact same process when you start from scratch. The difference is you won't have that mother that you can put on top of the vinegar. So here's how you have to handle that. First of all, in my opinion, you're going to start with a little extra sugar. Now the sugar thing is kind of all over the map. If you look online, you're going to see some people that have the opinion that you don't need any sugar at all. Then other people will show that you need a lot of sugar. I went somewhere in between on my first batch and I used 2 cups of sugar. You probably don't need that much, but the bacteria that you're wanting to get started needs something to eat. The apple sugars are fine, but it takes a little while for those apples to break down in that water to give that bacteria something to start with. Here's one mistake I made on my very first batch. I took all those apples that I started with and I put them in a blender and I made a mash. It wasn't a slurry, but it was chopped really fine, almost like a chunky applesauce. I added that to the water with the sugar. The problem with that is all that apple mash floats on the surface of the water. That creates a lot of surface area for the oxygen to get to those apples, and the mold grew really fast. So on the next batch, I didn't blend it all up. I just chopped it with a knife on the cutting board, just like you saw when I processed this batch. You add that to your water and your sugar, and then you make sure you stir it every couple days, because the mold grows wherever the air is touching the apples, wherever it's poking out of the water. If you keep that under the water, then the mold doesn't have a chance to get established. So once you set your first batch up and you get it ready to put into the pantry, don't forget about it. This is your first batch, so you have to go in there every 2 or 3 days, take a wooden spoon and push those apples under the water. You don't have to stir it up, you just have to push those apples under the water. Now your best way to start is to start with some organic apple cider vinegar. If you know somebody like me, a homesteader nearby, that makes their own, ask them for a cup of their vinegar. That way, it already has the bacteria and yeast in the vinegar that's going to help start and inoculate your first batch. If you don't know somebody nearby that has a batch of homegrown apple cider vinegar, go to the store and look for raw organic apple cider vinegar. Many of the labels will say organic apple cider vinegar with mother. That's the key. It has to have the mother. You may not see it floating, but you'll see that it's a little cloudy. Maybe there's some sediment on the bottom. That's the bacteria and yeast that has collected and fallen. A lot of times when it gets disturbed, it'll fall to the bottom and just make that layer on the bottom that looks like gunk. If you have some apple cider vinegar, some raw organic with mother to start with, that's going to help you get started even faster. But you don't need it. Like I said, this batch was started without any inoculant. Your basic recipe is going to be about a pint of chopped apples, 3 pints of water, and a cup or 2 of sugar. I prefer the organic sugar over the processed white sugar, but I don't think it really matters. Get all that in your glass container, give it a little stir, cover it with your towel. It can be a paper towel or a coffee filter or something like that, as long as it keeps bugs out and allows the vinegar to breathe. Secure it with a piece of twine or a rubber band or anything that's going to keep that tight up against the rim. Put it somewhere you're not going to forget about it on your first batch. Keep it stirred every 2 to 3 days, and I think you're going to be okay. You can do this later and forget about it a month at a time after you have a mother that's beginning to form on your vinegar. If you have an abundance of fruit, you can use whole apples. Just chop it up and use it. But we like to use the apple and then save what would normally become trash, the peels and the cores. We just take our peels and cores, collect them in a cereal bag, and put them in the freezer until we're ready to make a batch of apple cider vinegar. We use apple cider vinegar pretty much daily, sometimes in small amounts, sometimes in larger amounts. So we like to have a batch going all the time. Here's a few quarts that have been in the pantry for a little while. Here's the batch that I just made, and then of course the one that is processing right now. I think there's even some in the refrigerator and probably some in containers on the bathroom counters. There's so many uses for apple cider vinegar to give you a healthier life. Some of it's internal, some of it's external. I don't feel like I can even come close to listing all of the ways that you can use apple cider vinegar, so I'm not even going to try to do that in this video. You can research that. There's lots of blogs and videos to explain all of those purposes and uses. But for this video, I want to encourage you to give it a try. If you have questions after you've watched this video and the one that I produced yesterday, then go ahead and post them in the comments below and I'll do my best to answer those for you. Is this coming across well? Audio's on, right? Thank you so much for joining me on the Daddy Curbs farm. It is truly my pleasure to share my homesteading experience with you. Thank you for coming along the journey. Thank you for encouraging me. And thank you for asking the questions that help me to learn so that I can present these videos to help you and others to learn as well. It's been a lot of fun having you in my kitchen. I'll talk to you soon.